Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a pleasure having you on the morning news on Vision Card. Today is the last edition for the week. On what is making news today, the Minister of Secondary Education, Nalova Lyonga, will, as from 10 a.m., install into function the newly appointed Secretary General of her ministry. Away from that, let's now talk about the week of breastfeeding instituted by the World Health Organization, the WHO. Observed every first week of August, it is aimed at promoting breastfeeding and also to ameliorate the health of babies below 6 months. Details with Lorian Gamini.
Giving breast milk exclusively for 6 months to babies are recommendations given by medics to young mothers. This is because breast milk is less expensive, very convenient and clean, and equally, it provides ideal nutrition for babies, for it contains important antibodies which reduce disease risk, thereby promote a healthy weight which makes the children smarter. Yet, these recommendations are not often respected by all women due to professional obligations.
I was into business, so I adopted mixed feeding, but after a couple of about 4 months. It wasn't easy because I could not stay at home taking care of the child. I had to get something to feed the child because I was alone. I was a single mother. It was not easy though, but I did my best as a mother.
I practiced mixed feeding because I had to go back to school. So for 2 months was just one breastfeeding. But after the second month, I had to introduce her to milk because if I had to go and she was not yet used to milk, it would have been disturbing.
I had to give mixed feeding. It was quite challenging to do the bottles and prepare the food, storage, taking cognizance of the fact that I wasn't there all the time.
In order to avoid these challenges, some women prefer remain devoted to maternity before stepping into the professional milieu.
It was very easy for me because I wasn't working by then. I have 4 children and all my 4 children, I wasn't working then. So I had all the time to breastfeed them for 6 months.
The first was a boy. He took exclusive breast milk for 6 months, and that's because I had the time to breastfeed him.
I will ask somebody to feed the child on my behalf. So it was really not easy to trust people with your child, but at least it's just for the best for the child.
Continual breastfeeding is then recommended for at least 1 year, as different foods are introduced into the baby's diet. Giving breast milk is equally very good for the mother, as it may help lose weight gain during pregnancy, help the uterus contract, lower risks of depression, and equally serve as contraceptive for some women. Activities have returned to normal at the Essos neighborhood here in Yaoundé after a woman bumped into a supermarket providing a pay-for-all client service. Belinda Ju with the rest of the story.
Here is the Essos neighborhood Thursday, 24 hours following the incidents that made waves around the capital city Yaoundé and beyond. Hours after the woman who initiated a pay-for-all goods consumed service in the supermarket Wednesday, activities seem to have returned to normalcy.
I buy my things here, so I don't feel affected by what happened or what has happened yesterday. I was coming here to do my shoppings and then I saw the big crowd feel affected or concerned by what happened yesterday.
The woman who was taken to the Yaoundé 3 company few minutes after the supermarket was overcrowded spent hours under the supervision of the gendarmes. As explains Commander Serge Koulou, the said woman was preparing a trip to Bolivar and decided to shop before initiating the journey. She therefore collected all the husband's savings and spent the money in paying some clients' bills. At the gendarmerie, we were told the woman left for the Jamo hospital Wednesday at 7 p.m. Our stop in the hospital this Thursday was fruitless as medical authorities refused pronouncing themselves on the issue. But however reaffirmed that the woman is under the medical supervision in the Jamo Psychiatric Hospital in Balatu, Yaoundé.
Let's now talk economic issues in this newscast. Cameroon or Yaoundé will soon be the host of the headquarters of the African Development Bank. This is the outcome of an audience granted the Director General of the African Development Bank for Central Africa, Usman Do. Economic Desk Editor Shu Emmanuel with the rest of the story.
The construction of the headquarters of the African Development Bank in Central African Sub-Region in Yaoundé, Cameroon, is a welcome project for the government tasked to implement the vision of the head of state, making Cameroon an emergent country by 2035.
Well, we had been received by the minister to talk about our cooperation. As you know, the bank has been having some 23 operation project in Cameroon for a total of 875 billion CFA. It was a question of talking about the status of the portfolio and at the same time to look into the lending program for this year.
To Cameroon's Minister of the Economy, Planning and Regional Development, technical dispositions are being finalized for the ADB headquarters, which attracts funds for both public and private investments.
I had the opportunity to discuss about the technicalities of this transfer of the regional bureau to Cameroon, and the government has pledged its full support to ease and accelerate the procedure such that as quick as possible that the theme which is going to be operational as from Yaoundé, that this team is really based in Yaoundé soon.
Both men also zoomed into the Ring Road project, which is at its third phase and actively being financed by the African Development Bank.
The government remains committed to pushing through a couple of projects, including the important project of the Ring Road, which is a major piece of infrastructure we are trying to deliver this year in the western part of the country.
We are also thinking of future development, the Ring Road and other interconnection activities between Cameroon and Chad and electricity sector.
As finalizations are being carried out for the African Development Bank headquarters in Cameroon for Central African sub-region, the financial body is expected to be in Yaoundé for an enlarged mission and visit for September this year.
Let's now take you to the southwest region of Cameroon to talk about a seminar organized to train women to advocate for peace. The women drilled from all walks of life were all trained on the role of handling peace in the country. Details with Southwest Bureau Chief Marilyn Gua.
Apart from children, women are fragile and weak sex who make up majority of the population. Looking at the ongoing crisis plaguing the northern southwest regions of Cameroon, women have been negatively affected. While female IDPs in the bushes go for months without sanitary pads and are forced to use plants, others are being molested and raped by military men. Some pregnant women die because they are unable to be rushed to the hospital due to the crisis. Women even go to the extent of digging graves after all the men in their community were arrested and some flee. And many others killed during the ongoing Anglophone crisis. In this light, women from countries in Africa that have been plagued by war and crisis situation have met in Boya during the first annual African Women Solidarity Forum organized by the Center of Human Rights and Democracy in Africa to share experiences and seek solutions to the ongoing crisis hitting the English-speaking regions of Cameroon.
And I'm really optimistic, and I believe that Cameroonian women, specifically the Southwest and Northwest women that are right in the middle of the crisis, they will be able to achieve it as if they have a common goal and be able to be at the forefront of the crisis. They are capable of bringing the solutions.
To the participants, it is time for the silent women to speak out for peace.
And all my dear friends out there, women, please don't go out with men. Don't hang out with them. They want to watch their soccer matches. They want to do it on a bottle of beer. And they want female company around them. If we deny them sex, we deny them company in beer parlors. I think we are going to be heard.
Most of those that we see as refugees in Nigeria, they are women. Most of those we see in bushes, they are women. There is need for those women leaders to come up now and propose solutions to this problem so that women can stop suffering.
The men are not left out as they are to join the women in the fight for peace.
Women have a lot of potentials as it concerns conflict resolution.
At the end of the conference, some resolutions were taken, with one of them being the fact that peace is not only the absence of conflict but also requires a positive, dynamic, participatory process where dialogue is necessary and conflicts are solved in the spirit of mutual understanding and cooperation.
And on to this sad story, the mortal remains of late Justine Tatiana Menge Akono was yesterday given a requiem mass at the Lady of Victory Cathedral here in Yaoundé. It should be known that she was the Director of Financial Affairs of the group L'Anecdote. Details of this story with Irene Mekoncho.
The mortal remains of Justine Tatiana Menge Akono, former head of financial department of the group L'Anecdote media organ, has today been offered a requiem mass at the Lady of Victory Cathedral in Yaoundé after the corpse was removed from the mortuary of the Yaoundé General Hospital. Born in 1975 with an HND in accountancy, she has been serving in the group L'Anecdote in several capacities till her demise on the 4th of July after a brief illness. Shattered by the sudden death of Tatiana Menge, the chief executive officer of the group L'Anecdote, Jean-Pierre Amougou Bellinga, close collaborators, friends and relatives were left spellbound at the removal of the corpse at the Yaoundé General Hospital, considering the magnitude of work she had offered to the group for the past years. She will be laid to rest this Saturday, August the 4th, in her native town, Minkumu, in the Central Region. Menge Tatiana leaves behind a son and many loved ones to mourn her forever and ever.
From that sad story, let's now move out of the boundaries of Cameroon to Zimbabwe, where Emmerson Mnangagwa has won the Zimbabwe presidential elections with 2.46 million votes opposed to 2.15 million to his rival Nelson Chamisa. Meanwhile, before the declaration of the elections, Emmerson Mnangagwa was holding talks with opposition leader. Details in the following report.
The president took to Twitter to condole with the families of victims of Thursday's clashes between opposition supporters and the security agencies. Mnangagwa, whose ruling ZANU-PF party has already secured a parliamentary majority, called for unity and peaceful settlement of differences. Opposition supporters clashed with police on Wednesday following the announcement by Zimbabwe's Electoral Commission that presidential election results will not be ready until Thursday. Chamisa, who had already declared on Twitter that his party had won the presidential election, said the delays in announcing the results were attempts by the ruling party to manipulate the people's will.
President Muhammadu Buhari has lauded his Gambian counterpart, Adama Barrow, for bringing stability to the tiny West African nation following the events that led to his coming into office, as we hear in the following report.
Buhari, in underscoring the importance of stability, said it had a ripple effect on the wider national agenda of every nation. Buhari on Wednesday received Barrow at the presidency in Abuja, where the two held bilateral talks. Barrow came into office at a time his immediate predecessor, Yahya Jammeh, was virtually threatened out of office by regional bloc ECOWAS. Jammeh, now exiled in Equatorial Guinea, lost and conceded in polls of December 2016, only to unilaterally cancel the results and order a rerun, citing irregularities. After failed mediation led by Buhari and other leaders, ECOWAS deployed a force to oust Jammeh upon expiration of his term in January 2017. This is the second time Barrow has paid a courtesy call on Buhari. On his part, Barrow congratulated Mr. Buhari on his new regional position, having been elected chairperson of ECOWAS. He reiterated his gratitude for the role Buhari played in returning the Gambia to the path of constitutionalism.
Note that we call it quits for the morning news in the English language for Vision Cat. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being there and do have a blessed weekend. I leave you in the company of Sidwan Monka.